Thank you so much for joining me, Arun. It's been quite a while trying to get hold of you. Obviously, you were very busy with your work with the EFI, and I'm so happy to finally be speaking to you. Arun, we're doing this for the InfraVision Foundation. One of the many things that we're doing at the foundation is planning to do an award show where we honor people such as you who've done extraordinary work in the area of infrastructure. I've seen almost all the videos that you've sent and the kind of work that you've done. So I really wanted to understand, it's an enormous thing that someone so young thought of, when really we didn't even understand the full impact of climate change and the full impact of really what clean water could do for us. It's only now that that awareness has grown. So talk to me about what inspired you to take up the cleaning of lakes and other water bodies in Chennai. And then, of course, now I think you're all across 14 states, if I'm not mistaken.
Primarily, thank you for this opportunity. And I'm so sorry that we couldn't connect earlier. It's only owing to field work that I don't have network. We are in 18 states. We are in 18 states now, ma'am, and we've just branched to Sri Lanka. So
wow.
EFI has now become Environmentalist Foundation International, and we still remain EFI. Here within the country, we are in 18 states and we have branched to Sri Lanka. Our main focus is lake pond restoration to adopt freshwater habitats, revive and restore them scientifically, keeping in mind all aspects of nature, not just make it a public recreation spot, but keeping in mind all aspects of nature. That's what we're trying to do. And how it all started, I grew up in suburban Chennai. My story is similar to every common Indian story. We're a middle-class family, aspirational middle-class family, which is extremely patriotic, which sticks to almost every value system that we've ever been taught. And while doing that, from worshipping that tree to snake to bird to lake to pond was part of the intrinsic system that I grew up in. And growing up in suburban Chennai meant that limited exposure to the global frenzy, but at the same time, in your own world, with your own practices, you were living a content life. When bunch of these water bodies were to be taken off for dumping of garbage or for public infrastructure expansion, as the city was growing, that is when we realized that something that you cherish so close to your heart at a very young age, which is the neighborhood lakes and ponds and the trees, and something kept bothering that something has to be done about this. And that's when it was also realized that Swami Vivekananda, in Kanyakumari, there's a campus of the Vivekananda Kendra. And when you go down that campus from their main arch towards the reception area, it's quite a drive. It's probably 200-300 meters long. On either sides of the wall, you'll have all these Swami Vivekananda's words written. And my father had this practice almost once in 2 years. He would take us there because it's a very cost-effective accommodation and you're at the tip of mainland India. So we'll just be there every summer. And Kanyakumari is so close to my heart. I just wish every Indian visits this place as many times as possible. It's spiritual in more ways than one. Along those walls of Swami Vivekananda's words would be something about nature, something about the country. And this campus by itself is a peacock sanctuary. You'll find a lot of peacocks, a lot of garden lizard, and the coast by the side, the sand on the beach would be multicolored. And then you'll find a lot of these palm seeds. And the palm seed would have a beard shaving types, the palm shavings.
Right.
So we would get these palm seeds, we would color them and make them look like voodoo toys. So all my interaction 1993 to 1999, 2000 was only in such places where palm tree, neem tree. In my house in Muduchur, Chennai, you open the electricity board box, a snake would be sitting there slithered because that's the kind of place it moved into.
Right.
But at no point has the snake harmed me or anybody in my family. And every evening I've seen an owl. Almost every evening I've seen an owl. The kind of frog, the kind of fish that I've seen in the water bodies. Then to see those habitats change is when trigger came in. And wherever I moved to Hyderabad to work, I moved to Delhi to study. And wherever I went, I was able to find such water bodies. In Delhi, it's the Sanjay Lake at Trilokpuri, or the Hoskas water body, or the Bhadkal Lake. The Bhadkal Lake to me is such a phenomena, the landscape, and wanting to somehow protect these habitats, how nature intended, has become life's purpose.
Wonderful. Tell me a little more about your family, Arun. It seems a fantastic growing up,
Yes.
something that you really cherish, and rightly so. Talk a little about your family.
Oh, how I miss those days. Today, push of a button, and there is a little bit more money now than compared to what we used to have.
Yeah,
Literally, from the 1st to the 30th of every month, we ran on what my mother and father brought home, which meant there was a sense of responsibility of living within those limits. We never used to waste anything. All of us worked for it. And gender didn't matter in the family. All of us used to wash vessels, cook, because mother and father were working, which meant they brought up me and my brother sharing family responsibilities.
right.
We
What did your
understood.
parents do? What did they do?
My father worked for a public sector insurance company, New India Assurance.
Oh,
My
of course.
my mother's been a teacher all her life,
Right.
and very ambitious young lady at that time. The whole family setup was like, India meant a lot to us, means a lot
Right.
to us, not meant. Patriotism was always driven into the family value system, and the larger thing was the four of us are a nice bunch. Of course, the skirmishes and everything, but we're a nice bunch, right? And the whole system would be that in your whole setup, there would be a once in a 2-year vacation, a 1-month long vacation, where you'll go to some distant corner. And Kanyakumari always featured. My father used to take me to the tip of mainland India. It's called Cape Comorin. And he just make me look at the vastness of this country, and he'll tell me, now just dream what a big country you live in. This is where your
Wow.
country starts. Such kind of dramatic imagery has always been in my head. 1999, when the Kargil war happened, my father actually put me out in the street, told me, go collect things, let's send. So always such value-driven, participatory, more than value-driven, such participatory initiatives have always been there. Only three
Wonderful.
times in a year we would get new clothes. One was
Wow.
Diwali, it was your birthday, and the third being Sankranti, which also happened to be my parents' wedding day.
Okay.
That three clothing material that you got once in a year was so cherished. That is where circular economy, reusing what I've already used, sustainability, nobody had to teach us. We had a banana stem growing in the backyard. We had henna growing in my garden. We had tomatoes, green chili. We had coconut. We still have coconuts. We had a teak tree. From the teak tree, when the cyclone hit, when the teak tree fell, we made our cot. So for home. So it's a very small house. It's not a big estate, and also a very small house with a limited space for plants. And we always had everything within that space. Whatever be the meager thousands that they made, in those thousands we live like millionaires. So that's who we were.
Wonderful. That's so wonderful to hear, and it's so inspiring, That's what made you who you are.
Truly, I owe it to them. I truly owe it to them.
Right. And I think, Arun, that is the spirit you're able to communicate to people who are volunteering for you. Otherwise, why would so many people, even if they cared about the environment, join you? I mean, there must be something that they're able to connect with. So that is what I wanted to understand, to have such a wonderful system working purely through volunteers. It takes a lot of charisma and a lot of conviction for people to associate with you.
We are trying to just be them, ma'am, because I've been a volunteer and I've always seen how you get exploited as a volunteer and you get driven for somebody else's agenda as a volunteer. At EFI, we're keeping it simple. We don't have big banners. We don't have any kind of a propaganda or an agenda. We just tell people, come, let's do what we can and do what you can in the time that you have with us. And before COVID, we hit numbers as big as 60,000 a year, 60,000 volunteers a year. And after COVID, I was very worried that it was never going to bounce back. But God has been very kind, and the resilience in fellow Indians, right? The want and the need to be out, whether it's Indore, whether it's Ahmedabad, Gurgaon, Coimbatore, Tirunelveli, Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad. I don't even speak all the languages. Now I'm learning all these languages. They all don't even know me personally that well, but people still come. And it's not because of my face, it's not because of organization, it's because people care and they want a simple, Sida Sada, no nonsense platform where we can just come, do our bit and leave, and not be dragged into any unnecessary controversy, agenda, propaganda. And we never collect 1 rupee from anybody in the name of donation. We are taken care by CSR, corporate social responsibility, through our donors, and we ensure that we spend their money rightfully, legally as prescribed, and we ensure it's spread wide across. That's what we're trying to do. And I think with this simple Sida Sada no nonsense platform, more and more people are going to be there, and that's how a lot of young people are part of EFI.
So, how have you been able to replicate the Chennai model, as it were, in other states? What would you say are the key elements that have helped you to scale up in such a phenomenal way?
Schools. We've always gone to the schools. Age between somewhere between 10 and 15, before they're completely engrossed in the regular conventions of human life. When their mind is fresh, when they're actually explorative, when they really want to be outside, we go to these schools, and we have some amazing school partners. When we go to all these schools, we tell them stories, we actually interact with them. And one phenomenal proposition which I've seen is, we don't have to tell the school kids what to do. They in return come with ideas, ranging from resolving a hyacinth issue in a lake, to painting public walls, to putting together a street play team. The plethora of activities that we can get done with young people. What I've noticed with people, once they're 20 and plus, they all want to advise, they all want to tell us what to do. When they're 10 to 15, they want to do, and they make sure you participate with them. That's always been the case. When they grow up, they come as an intern, they take full-time jobs. I have staff with me who've been with me since their school days, and they've gone from school to university, and they've just joined EFI full-time, and they're still here.
It's so inspiring. And when you have to measure the impact, because you have to, of course, it's a world that you do, where you do need money for these kinds of activities, and CSR, convincing people to part with their money, especially corporates, is not very easy. I know. How do you tell them what the impact is? How do you measure the impact of what you're doing?
That's where we are a little stuck. The corporate model of impact assessment documentation is something which is very hard for us, because we're field people. But our partners are supportive. They give us training modules. Some of them are extremely patient. In understanding that this is how an NGO works, and an NGO has to be given time. And so we are getting there. We are actually getting there. We're 16 years old now. Especially the last 4 years, we've invested a lot into somehow structuring EFI professionally, because a lot of people's career now depends on EFI. Almost 37 of them full-time staff, and their full-time career is only this. So in that case, you need the corporate funding. So if you need the corporate funding, you have to have the professional setup as the backing, which ensures that the impact, the documentation, everything is foolproof. And we are also under stringent audits. We just can't spend their money however we want. So all that is credibility, integrity, and time-bound documentation is something which we've really held high, and we're trying to learn in the process. We are not 100% perfect when it comes to documentation, but we are still trying very, very hard.
And the other thing, Arun, that is important in such a, in an organization such as yours, is the innovations that you bring in. Because you cannot, every kind of a lake or water body must be throwing up a different kind of challenge, and you have to come up with a different kind of solution. What are the innovations that you have kept making in your models?
Situational leadership is a model that we definitely follow. We don't go with a textbook template of this is how we'll get it done. And the second most important thing is we always adapt to the challenges that's thrown at us, whether it's the community demography, whether it's the politics, whether it's the money, whether it's climate related. So we somehow have to encompass all of this together and get things done. That's how we are looking at this. Whether it's the invasive vegetation, whether it's the garbage problem, sewage problem, flooding issue, the social integrity, all of this has unique methods of execution and based on that given lake. Sometimes the analogy that I use is you feel like you're running a hospital. There are patients who are your lakes who are brought to you in an extremely critical condition. How much ever you do, whatever you do, you just can give that particular patient or the lake a peaceful passing. And that's reality. Whereas there are a few which will be brought in a critical condition with proper care over a prolonged period, you will be able to revive them. And to what extent you'll be able to revive them. A few will just be outpatients. They'll just come with a bunch of bruises. You'll just have to give them tiny bits of medication and they're good to bounce back. And then a few are precautionary, where you give them all the vaccines, where you're doing everything already to ensure that the next 40 years is a good life for this young water body. So that's how we ideate and that's how we keep moving.
That sounds so fascinating. So can we call you Dr. Krishnamurthy now?
No, ma'am. Arun Krishnamurthy is. I've not done a PhD, and because of that analogy, I can't become a doctor. So unfortunately.
But tell me how your parents must be so proud of you. That little boy who went with his father to the farthest tip of India to see, so much water and just all around. I wonder how they feel.
Never express anything too exorbitantly, but they're of course happy. We're also spiritually very connected, ma'am, to the whole nation and the idea of living along with nature. So one other thing which has always been embedded in the value system is to be modest. And somehow in this journey with nature, what I've realized is you and I are just tools. A single fraction of a second, if I think something is happening because of me, I very strongly believe that's the end of me. I truly will tell you this. There have been so many challenges. How we've overcome those challenges, only nature knows. Because nature has always stood by us. She has supported us, guided us, and gotten the work out of us. So the universe has a plan, and just to quietly surrender to the plan and be a tool, realizing the purpose of this tool has been the biggest life lesson. Very content, happy with whatever's happening, never too proud or expressive about it, never.
So a typical wonderful middle class textbook family, which really is the spirit of India, I think. Where would India be without people such as you and parents of people such as you, I think.
Kind of you. That's kind words. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us and talking to us. How many lakes and water bodies is it now, Arun?
We are 462 water bodies old, ma'am.
462?
Yes.
Wow.
And we have 67 afforestation sites. And then we clean and maintain close to 23 kilometers of beach stretch.
Wow.
And then across India for nearly 37 kilometers, you'll find our wall paintings which talk about India's wildlife.
Wow. Across 18 states.
Yes, in cities such as Indore, in Mohali, in Chennai, Coimbatore, Madurai, Bangalore, in all these cities, you'll find our wall paintings.
Wonderful.
And then we run a series, last thing, we run a series on YouTube called Hydrostan, which talks about India's water stories, where we're trying to document phenomenal water stories from across India for ages. How this country knew what sustainability was before the global West could coin that term. and how we are
Right.
the tome for sustainability is something which we are documenting in that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Arun, and we'll be back to talk to you again. But thank you.